and welcome back to DDH Deck Building. I'm your host, Demo, and it's time for another Commander Quick Brew. And I got a couple more I'm talking about today. First off, Lonis, Cryptozoologist, blue and a green, Snake Elf Scout, 1/2. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, investigate. And I already had a guy comment on my Adrix and Nev Private Investigators deck about how this just came out. And it's funny. I literally waited for years for a really good Investigate commander to come out. And I thought Adrix and Nev would be a perfect fit because most of the Investigate stuff is in Simic colors. And I thought doubling tokens, that works really well. So I thought that was a great fit. And then sure enough, a month later, they come out with an actual Investigate commander. So little egg on my face, I guess. I don't know. Obviously, everything I'm doing in that Adrix and Nev deck is going to fit in here. So, you know, this is a Commander Quick Brew, and I'm giving you ideas of what you should do with this deck. Mostly what's in that deck is going to go in this deck. And obviously Adrix and Nev is going to go in this deck, right? Adrix and Nev is a perfect fit in this deck because I'm going to cast my Adrix and Nev. It's a non-token creature entering the battlefield. And so I'm going to investigate, and then I'm going to get another one because my Adrix and Nev is going to give me 2 of those. And obviously Parallel Lives, right? Doubling season. This is why I wish they had reprinted Parallel Lives in Commander 21. That price is going to completely get out of hand. But anyway, there is another ability here, right? Tap, sacrifice X clues. Target opponent reveals the top X cards of their library. You may put a non-land permanent card with mana value X or less from among them onto the battlefield under your control. That player puts the rest on the bottom of their library in random order. So I don't love that ability, okay? You know, I'm just thinking, and again, we'll just play this through. Sacrifice X clues. So let's say I sacrifice 4. I sacrifice 4 clues. I look at the top 4 cards of target opponent's library, and I'm looking for a non-land permanent card. So I can't take lands. So now I look at 4 cards, and I have to hit a permanent in those top 4 that isn't a land and cost 4 or less. If not, it's just a big old whiff, okay? I don't love that. I don't love any ability where you can possibly whiff. I also don't love abilities, and I know a lot of people do. They love that Gaunty type stuff where I steal my opponent's stuff and use it. I don't, because you never know what you're getting, and I kind of like to know what I'm getting. So for me, that ability is, you know, I'm not building my deck around that ability. That is just an extra, a freebie. It's just like in my Adrix and Nev deck, where I had things on there where I could sacrifice my clue tokens because it can get really mana intensive, paying 2 mana every time to draw a card. So if you have other things in there where you can sacrifice artifacts to draw cards and stuff like that, and again, I would do this in this deck as well, Sage of Latnam, for example, right? You can just sacrifice those clue tokens to draw a card rather than paying the mana. It's just nice to have that ability. So if your opponent casts a Bane of Progress and you're going to lose all your clue tokens, why not just sacrifice them all? And we'll look at, you know, that's what I would save that ability for, right? I would leave that ability up for my opponent's about to cast a Cleansing Nova or something. I'm going to lose all that value. I'm going to lose all those clue tokens. So might as well just sack them all and maybe I'll get something off the top of my opponent's library, right? So that's what I like about it. I wouldn't go too much down that road though. For me, this is just, I'm playing lots of creatures, right? It's almost a good stuff creatures deck a little bit, a Simic good stuff creatures deck. The Investigate is just added value. I'm just adding value onto it. And the last ability is just, I'm going to use my clue tokens in case they get destroyed, or maybe they're really piling up and I've got like 20 of them in play and I'm never going to crack them all. So might as well use that ability and see if I can get something good. Essex is another fantastic one in this deck. Basically, every time you investigate, you're going to be turning that clue token into whatever you want, like a Reclamation Sage, right? And because it's an enter the battlefield ability with your commander, Reclamation Sage comes in, you create that clue token, and then you can immediately use Essex's ability to make that clue token into a Reclamation Sage and destroy something else, right? Just really great value there. Also, don't sleep on the fact that our commander is a Snake, Elf, and Scout. I know I said I don't love that second ability, but you could put Wirewood Lodge in here, for example, right? Tap, pay 1 green and untap target elf, so we can untap our commander to use that ability again if you really want to. The one I really like though is Kashi Tribe Elite. 1 green, green, Snake Warrior 2/3. Legendary snakes you control can't be the target of spells or abilities, also known as Shroud. So this is going to give our commander Shroud. It's going to keep our commander from being targeted. We can't target it. You know, it can be a little tricky with Shroud. That's why I like Shroud, because you got to actually think about it, right? We can't use our Wirewood Lodge, for example, on our commander if Kashi Tribe Elite is in play. But I think the advantage of our opponents can't just easily take our commander out with a removal spell is definitely worth it. So I would put that in the deck as well. And like I said, I think for me, this is mostly just a sort of almost a good stuff creatures deck. I mean, obviously you're going to put all the investigate stuff in there, but like I did with the Adrix and Nev deck, there isn't enough to completely fill a deck, right? So for me, I put the investigate stuff in there, which is going to be like 10 or 12 cards. And then the rest of the deck is good stuff creatures, right? Your Reclamation Sages, your Eternal Witnesses, whatever, because every time they come into play, you're playing non-token creatures so that you can get those clue tokens, right? You could even go Snake Tribal or Elf Tribal with this as well if you want to, because you're just going to be playing a lot of creatures anyway. So pretty easy build around, I think. The other commander I am talking about today is Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer. 1 mana. Right? So already that's significant. Not a lot of 1 mana legendary creatures out there. 1 red mana, 2/1 Monkey Pirate. When Ragavan Nimble Pilferer deals combat damage to a player, create a treasure token and exile a top card of that player's library. Until end of turn, you may cast that card, and it has dash. 1 and a red, and for anyone who isn't familiar with dash, it's not a new ability. There actually is a few commanders that have it. Zergo Bellstriker has dash. Kolaghan Storm's Fury also has it, right? So it does exist on legendary creatures already. And basically you cast this spell for its dash cost, and you are casting it. That's significant. If you do, it gains haste, and you return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step, right? So basically just comes into play, you swing with it, and then it comes back, which of course works great with Ragavan's first ability. Now, the first thing of note here is this card might look familiar to some people, and that is because it is on Kari Zev, Skyship Raider, right? This is her monkey. And I really love the flavor here, because essentially what's happening on Kari Zev is what Ragavan is doing, right? It's coming into play when she attacks, appearing and then disappearing again. So that's that dash ability. So I love the flavor there. That's fantastic. It's really interesting that they decided to do this. Obviously, there's a lot of legendary creatures that appear on other legendary creature cards, right? Tokens that come into play. And so I wonder if they're going to explore that more. So obviously with Ragavan, what we want to be doing is probably a lot of things that you would be doing in a Zergo Bellstriker deck, right? Very similar, both of those commanders. So I cast my commander a lot, or my commander enters the battlefield a lot type of stuff really works well. Skyfire Phoenix, for example, 2 red Phoenix, 3/3 flying haste. When you cast your commander, return Skyfire Phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield. So that works perfectly. If it's in your graveyard, you dash your commander, and this comes into play, and then it can immediately swing along with your commander. Tome of Legends, though, is probably my favorite. Really great card advantage. You know, I considered putting this on my colorless card draw video, but I thought it's kind of specific. It really is specific for certain decks where you are either casting your commander a lot or attacking with your commander a lot, which of course this deck is going to be doing like crazy, right? So it enters the battlefield with a page counter on it, and when your commander enters the battlefield or attacks, you put a page counter on it, and you can pay 1 and remove a page counter to draw a card. So we're going to be getting 2 counters on this every turn, because our commander is going to enter the battlefield and attack. So we're going to be drawing a card off of this every single turn. Hero's Blade, also fantastic. Equipped creature gets +3/+2, and it's equipped for, but whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach Hero's Blade to it. So your Ragavan comes into play, Hero's Blade attaches to it immediately, and now it's a 5/3. I did the exact same thing in my Alrond and Haka deck, where I was basically playing the Haka side more so, and very similar, right? Constantly coming into play, then returning to your hand. Same sort of theme. So you could look at that deck as well to get some more ideas. And then also that first ability, right? That first ability is pretty fantastic. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, create a treasure token and exile a top card of that player's library, and you can play it. Similar to a Captain Lannery Storm deck where you're attacking and creating a treasure token, I think Captain Lannery Storm goes in this deck as well, because whenever you sacrifice a treasure token, Captain Lannery Storm gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Also very similar to Grenzo Havoc Razor a little bit. So it's sort of Grenzo and Lannery Storm combined into one, right? Whenever a creature you control deals damage to a player, you can goad a creature that player controls, or you can basically impulse draw off the top of their library, right? Same as Ragavan. So Grenzo also definitely, I think, goes in this deck as well. And then anything to do with treasure tokens. I mean, Goldspan Dragon obviously is going to be fantastic in this deck. Fits into the hasty attackers theme as well, but really what we want here is the treasure tokens you control have sacrifice and add 2 mana instead of 1. So that's probably an absolute auto-include in this deck. I really think there's a lot of support here. Ragavan is also a pirate, so all of the mono red pirate support will also fit in this deck. So definitely a lot of things you can do here. And I think probably is going to be pretty popular. This is, you know, for a mono red commander, this is definitely one that I think is going to see some play. So that is it for today. Lonis, Cryptozoologist, and Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer, Commander Quick Brew. Thanks for tuning in.